One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let us get to the drawing. Okay, so previous episodes we were talking about putting the clothes on her after we did the shading, right? Okay, so we're done with the shading, and now we're going to start trying to define her shape and form. So I'm wearing my Art Institute t-shirt. I'll be graduating there happily this summer, if anybody's interested. And I rebuilt an 8-core system. Wanted to show you all that. Let me see. See it? Be able to see that big computer down there. I rebuilt that 8-core. Hard to see, I guess. Not really touching it. I bring it there to you, I guess. Okay, there she is. Yeah, I rebuilt that, and it had a memory problem with some memory risers. I just took it away. But that's all fixed now, and so yeah, I build computers, so it's a hobby. So we're looking at what's happening now. So I'm trying to define, here we go again, the circles and the simple objects that I do see in the clothing. So what I like to do is I start from the neck down, because we've already done the face, so we need to try to keep a format and try to keep it going accordingly to the drawing. So I want to try to get the feel of the ring that's around her neck. It looks like she's wearing a ring and a lot of belts, so we have to define where that is on the skin. They're just simple circles, and I mean, every piece of clothing that even a seamstress, if you talk to them, it always starts with the pattern. Don't try to draw it freehand, because most clothing will be a pattern. If you've ever made any clothes, they start with patterns, and then they become clothes. So that's what we're doing. We're making patterns. Once we have our patterns, they look right, then we make it into the clothes. That's how most seamstresses make clothes. I mean, I had an Elvis suit made, and she had to start from a pattern. It was not, I did not buy it. It was made from an employee from that used to work for Vogue. If anybody's familiar with Vogue magazine. And she started with one simple pattern. This is how the clothes come about. Most they fit on most people. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to put on these patterns So now that you know how to put on clothes, let's go forward a little bit and try to see okay, so now I'm trying to define some of the under breast area, probably because of the belts. There's a belt line there under the breast that Harley Quinn has there, that the artist has put there. So we'll look into that. Okay, so I'm starting in this area here. So I see a couple of belts and then part of the dress. This area here. So we have a belt and then that looks like a part of the dress. And then there's a belt that goes over the dress. I think I've seen this part of clothing before and you can't buy it. It's definitely at a store that is custom made. Lingerie, maybe? So, look at this pattern right here. We have a diamond shape happening here. So that's what I'm trying to define, is that diamond shape and some of where the dress will overlap into those belts. So that's what you do with clothes. You find the shapes, the same thing. You find the shapes and you erase the parts that you think will need the most shading. Clothes are not hard. Once your figure is together, the clothes should be fairly simple to put together. You can't mess them up really, because they have a signature. T-shirts. So when you're doing a t-shirt, you just have to define the neckline, then on the sleeve. Now the crinkles, that's done later. You always do that part after you've put on the clothes. In Harley, there's a couple of crinkles in this part of her shoulder. I don't really understand that. I think this is an artist, because this doesn't make any sense how this is put together. Where is the shirt? I mean, it's going in and the collar's coming out, and then she has this clothing here. How is it attached? You gotta understand, artists do some strange things. It looks nice, but as far as a piece of clothing, it needs to be attached to the dress somehow, or maybe in her back, and we can't see that. But to a seamstress, it may not make any sense, but for us to look at it because of a movie, it was in a movie. I mean, she moves around and she's gonna choke herself, looks like. Unless it's attached somewhere. It's weird, her collar will probably fall off. The belts. So right now I'm just trying to find the patterns. They mainly exist in the type of outlining of the belts. This clothing is belts, a simple part of the dress, more belts underneath her breast area. It looks like a belt you would put on a horse, maybe, for harnessing. Well, maybe the artist is, and that's what you do. You try to figure out the drawing. At school, we would talk about the artist and maybe their interest, and it helps because then we get a good idea of how to draw. Do a lot of talk about artists. We don't do a lot of drawing, we do a lot of talking about artists. So you're trying to understand the drawing, and the only way to try to understand the drawing is to talk about it amongst your peers. Maybe the artist like horses, and that's why all these harnesses are on. It looks like lots of harnesses are on her. Somebody thought of a harness for a horse and made it into a dress. So all I'm trying to do is look for the shapes where they go inside the dress. I know in this area right here it looks like that harness is attached to most of these belts, because if you really think about it, that part there of the harness goes on a horse over its head, and that's how you can see where you can try to put the I don't own a horse, but it looks like that's pretty much where this part of the harness that she's wearing goes onto a horse's head. And so then you would look up harnesses and try to see how, there's another part of the harness right here by her stomach. I'm pretty sure that's how that goes. And so the artist thought he liked harnesses, so he would put it on Harley Quinn and see how it came about. I mean, it's not needed. What I know of Harley Quinn, she wore a lot of these jester dresses. She looked like the Joker's pet, or the Joker's second-hand man. And she would wear these funny looking hats. Well, for this movie version, they took the hats off, put these I believe as a tutu. Well, pink tutu that got changed. So, well, the artist made like tutus and harnesses. Sounds funny. But you have to keep in consideration that you know about these things, and that's what art is. You talk about it, and then you do it. It makes it easier for you to try to understand the artist and what they were doing. I mean, maybe he had a horse that stood like that. Since we know now that the artist likes harnesses, and used it in this this painting, this drawing. I do know that the look that's given to her looks like it's from Marvel. I've seen a lot of Marvel women look like that. I did a couple drawings for Marvel in the beginning of this year, and those stances are they definitely look like they're from Marvel. So we can guess that the artist likes Marvel stances that the women use, harnesses from horses, and doesn't really understand how a piece of clothing on the collar and shoulder area goes. So it's just placed under the harness. I don't know, maybe that's a fashion, but it's definitely interesting. But I do know, seeing that the glove areas, those are trademark gloves from Marvel. I've done them before. They look exactly what Marvel would put out for the public to see. The skin tight black gloves. And then if we can look in this area here, it looks like a piece of cloth is hanging out of the gloves. So maybe the gloves were cut off at that point, and so it's not a full glove, it's just half of a glove from the forearm with a piece of cloth hanging out. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's the fashion. I've seen that fashion before, but I mean, what century was that? So you're looking at maybe the 1800s where they had that type of dress? The cloth coming out of the sleeve? That's definitely the 1800s. Okay, so, well, you can see that this is a phase where we mostly talk. Believe that the the drawing looks like it's gone over again. Let's see. Okay, so we defined that area. We defined that area. Okay, so it looks like we're going to finish the clothing, and I've already finished the clothing because I can do that. Okay, and that's the end of that. So for next time, I'm going to for the next show, I'm going to define the rest of the clothing and get it ready for ink painters or the color stage. If you're in a real job, then the color stage is important, because that's the one that you give to the ink department and they finish it. But it has to be set up for them. So for us at home, we don't have an ink department. So we will get that ready for the painting stage, and then you will see as we're doing the painting that it will turn into the drawing. And at that point, with enough light and color, it's pretty amazing what digital technology can do with drawing now. So thank you.